Since TikTok didn't get banned, and also I actually have a streak with someone despite barely using the app, I decided to make the streak pet. And to start doing that, I needed all the colors, which is just yellows and oranges and vermilion. And to start, I make an aluminum base and cover it in some yellowish orange. Then I try and blend it in, make it as smooth as possible before covering up so that as much of the aluminum foil is, not visible. This gets smoothed together and blended all in so that it just looks pretty smooth and just as smooth as I can make it. However, because it's not as smooth as I want or the perfect shape, I just bulk out some of the areas that I want to be slightly larger. And also the top, because that has two little spikes on the top and I only made one for the original. I start by blending in the first one and just making it longer where I originally added it, and then adding a second one right next to it. Both of these get completely blended in so that there's no gap, seam, ridge, nothing. Just as smooth and as the same as possible. Then I add some more yellow to just all over the body so that it's just a little bit flatter and looks a little bit nicer. And also just in case it ended up not being the same color as the lower layer, because that would have been not very cool. After I'm done covering up the entire body in the yellowish, I get a more orangish and cover the entire bottom half in that color. Then, once the entirety of the entire bottom half is covered, I blend in each side into the orange itself, and then into the yellow. Well, the translucent yellow. This is entirely made with translucent clays, which I think I forgot to mention. This gets blended into basically everything, and then once it's blended into the entire body, I basically just pinch the entire bottom together so that there's no visible aluminum foil on the bottom. After that's done, I have to add the legs in a slightly more orangish orange, which is just tubes with slightly flattened bottoms of the feet. Well, the legs, because it doesn't actually have feet. These get blended into the rest of the body, completely and entirely, once again with no gap, seam, bumps, or ridge, just flat and smooth. Well, as smooth as possible. And once that's done, I begin work on something else. And that something else just so happens to be smoothing it out with the legs slightly, and then placing them down on the ground, and then making a flat sheet of a lighter yellow than what I originally used, and placing that on the front so that I can add a mouth that goes inside of the head, and eyes, and other things. This, again, gets blended in, the same as every single other time I have added something to this project specifically, and once it's all, smoothed together, made so that there's no bumps, ridges, seams, anything at all, I can then add a mouth. The mouth just gets indented into the rest of the head and made to be an open smile, like a capital D. Yeah, I just make the shape a little bit better, and then add the vermilion color inside the mouth so that it looks slightly deeper than it actually is, and yeah. Once this is flattened into the mouth, I can then add a tongue, which is just orange, the same orange as the legs, and then I can add the same flat sheet that I added to the front and onto the back, except this one is slightly smaller. This, like the other one, also gets blended in. And after it gets blended in, I begin work on a fairly important part of this design, which, after I refine the shape, is the eyes, which are two white balls that get flattened and are fairly large, and then after the eyes, which I then refine the shape of slightly, is the eyebrows, which are the same color as the inside of the mouth, which is just a thin worm of the vermilion, which is the same size and cut in two, and placed right above the eyes. And after the eyes, because I didn't want to cut the video, I made the hands because I needed another color for the pupils. The hands are just balls of the lighter yellow and the orange that are smashed together, made into a raindrop shape, and then a thumb is added. This is copied over to the other hand, and then once that's done, they both get added to the body. This one started in a raised position, but they both end up becoming a lowered position after a couple seconds. After that, I get two large brown irises, and then add two white highlights, two on each eye, which is a smaller one in the lower right-hand corner and a larger one in the upper left-hand corner. After these are added, the streak pet is done and just needs to be baked, which ended up making the colors a little bit darker. But with that, it's done.